I'm your host, Jason Tartick, and welcome to Trading Secrets. We talk all things money on this podcast, and we're teaching all the stuff we just weren't taught in the classroom. Nothing supports this show more than liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing. Welcome back to another episode of Trading Secrets. Today, we are joined by an absolute powerhouse in the fashion business and now reality TV world, Rebecca Minkoff. Rebecca is a globally recognized fashion designer, entrepreneur, and author who has co-founded the Rebecca Minkoff brand in 2005. And her brother, Uri Minkoff, what started with an I Love New York t-shirt evolved into a multi-million-dollar fashion empire known for its signature handbags, ready-to-wear collections, footwear, and accessories. She has continuously adapted to shifting trends and consumer needs, expanding her brand into new markets, including fragrance and sustainable fashion. Most recently, Rebecca has expanded her public presence by joining the cast of Real Housewives of New York, giving fans a behind-the-scenes look into her personal life and challenges of balancing her growing brand, family, and newfound reality TV. So how does Rebecca manage to juggle it all? What are the financial and business lessons she's learned from building a global fashion empire? We're going to step into it all. And not only has she done all that, books are under her sleeve. She also shares her insights on entrepreneurship and personal growth in her new book, Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. Rebecca, I could do your intro the whole episode, but I got to put this thing down.
I mean, you could cut it short. Just take a couple things off.
What haven't you done at this point?
I haven't jumped off a bridge.
Would you do that?
With a parachute, no.
Okay, but you did do reality TV.
Yep, that made me want to jump off a bridge.
Real Housewives of New York.
Yes.
I saw an interview in which you said you were trying, the idea behind it was you wanted to give people an inside look at what life is like from your perspective, family, business, entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Were your expectations exceeded, or what did you feel about how things came out?
My expectations were definitely not exceeded.
No?
It was not, I think I served a storyline for them, and everything else and all my accomplishments were really just edited out. And I've talked about it a lot, but I just was like, this is not the format for me. If you're not gonna show that part of my life, then there's no point of me being on here. I'm not here to pick fights.
Why do you think they didn't show that part of your life?
I have no idea. I would love to find the answer one day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. When fights did arise, you were just like, I'm not participating in this.
No, I would be like, guys, let's see if we can work it out. Do we need to feed you? Should we go for a walk?
Yeah.
Like, let's just take a breath. At one point, I was like, you need to stop talking. You need to listen. But all that also was
So you're trying to play
edited out.
like, kind of like good cop, like resolve everything.
I was trying to resolve everything, and I quickly learned
That's like the
no one wants
anti-reality
that.
TV.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
after I figured that out, I was like, now I'm just going to not participate.
Had you been approached for reality TV before, or was this the first time?
I had been approached. I mean, I did many seasons of Project Runway as a judge.
Yeah.
I was part of a short-lived spinoff of that show. And this was we'd been approached like, let's get into the office and film the whole thing. And my brother and I felt like at the time with our company growing, like when you're selling an elevated luxury product, do you want to see the mess? Not always.
Not always.
So we felt like at the time it wasn't right. And at the time that this opportunity came to me, it felt right.
Okay. When you look at it back, do you think, obviously it wasn't what you expected, but have you seen it help or hurt your brand? Because even with polarizing opinions of you're loved, beloved, liked, or disliked, it can still launch in a certain way. I mean, we talked about it before this episode started. We talked a little bit about some people have had some interesting moments that propelled their career.
Yeah.
And maybe those aren't perceived with positive connotation, but like, do you feel at all as though that it helped the brands?
That's the crazy part, is it helped the brand. And
It
so,
did?
yeah.
How so? What's the measurement to know that?
Well, brand awareness is up 20% year over decade.
Wow.
Every Tuesday night, traffic would triple to the site and stay doubled Wednesdays and Thursdays. So the amount of new eyeballs and audience now that I've brought in and, building our list size and sales that come from that, it's huge.
Yeah.
But I just was like this, if the platform for this is women arguing, I'm out. That's not what I'm here for.
Okay. Is there any part of you at all, like, is there anything they can negotiate to keep you around again or have you come back?
I think I said somewhere, like, if there was a nice public apology from certain people who I won't name, maybe there'd be an open dialogue.
On the show or behind the scenes?
Both.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. When there were some things that, like, this is the tough part about reality TV is when they're attacking you and then they're possibly attacking your brand. How do you deal with some of that scrutiny? We saw Bryn made the Nordstrom rack comment. Like, how does the team behind the scenes say, like, okay, we have to either use this as like a comedic element or we have to like find a way to defend this. Did you feel like you were in that spot?
So I knew right away that if you get defensive about those kind of things, first of all, I signed up for that. I wasn't surprised that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, you cannot take this seriously.
Yeah.
So you saw me going with Page Six. I did a podcast and I was like, guys, we got to go to Nordstrom Rack.
Yeah.
You know, we took pictures and like we leaned into the hilarity of it. Or when I was called boring, you know, we did a lot of fun social stuff around the fact that like, if you believe that what this TV show edited me to be about being boring, like here I am everywhere else. And I don't think I'm that boring. So like we made fun of it in a way. I first of all do not take myself that seriously.
Yeah.
That's what my husband loves about me. So I can be made fun of all day and I'll usually laugh with you.
You'll have a good time with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's play a game, hire, fire. We'll start with this. So you have to hire one person on Real Housewives of New York to join you for your next business. Of anyone, it's got to be current cast. Who would you hire if you had to hire one person?
I would hire Jessel Tank. She would run my PR and communications.
How come?
Because she is a smart, strategic girl.
Okay.
And she's loyal. And I think she really honed her chops working in the industry as long as she did, and she knows her stuff.
Okay, you're on the show, and you could fire anyone. Who would you fire?
I mean, we know we'd fire Brynn,
yeah,
right?
For sure. I mean, that's what I thought. I asked her a similar question, and she said you. So I'm glad you repaid the favor.
You know what? It's so nice because the feelings between us are so mutual.
Have you got like off screen? Do you ever try and like settle like some of those disagreements?
You know, the thing is because I knew what she was doing. I knew we needed the dramatic element.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh, you're a waste of time. And like, whatever, I'll see you around and it's fine. Like, it's not like I'm harboring any beef.
Okay, so I always found this with The Bachelor is that the cameras are off and then you'd see a certain side of someone. Cameras come on, whole different ball game. Did you feel that's the case with Real Housewives of New York?
I would have to say, let me think about each person. No, I feel like pretty much everyone was pretty consistent. Yeah.
Is there a bit? Let's take the business side. You're a business, you're an entrepreneur. You see it all. Is there an element of like you have to create drama to make the show go because ratings are what create the drama? And did you feel any of that pressure? Do you think other castmates feel that pressure to step into that because that's what makes the show go? Now knowing what you know. Now
knowing what I know, 100%. But I do think that production really came into it with better intentions.
Okay.
I firmly believe there is an audience out there that wants to see a chaotic, frenetic, dramatic within our own lives, you know, it play out and not have to be like this feeling of, oh, we have to have a fight now.
Yeah.
And I feel like they wanted to be fun and funny. And then it was like, oh, back to old rules and like dramatic fights, tearing each other up.
Yeah.
And so you could feel that. I don't know if you felt this, but you can feel it's like no one's fighting.
Yeah.
Is someone going to pick a fight?
What's
Who's
going to
go?
It's coming next.
And then you have the fight. You're like,
pop.
oh, okay, that's over with. Now we can just go back to it. So it's a very odd feeling. And then I'm supposed to be like, now I'm just supposed to be okay. Like we're all good now.
Just like that.
All my cortisol just like shot through me, and now I'm supposed to be like, oh, I love you again.
Yeah. What do you think it is about some of either the OGs or this cast though? They just don't care about that. Like.
I was with Dorinda today. I was interviewing her on my podcast, and I was like, does any of that like sit with you after an argument, or did it then? She's like, absolutely not. She's like, I was brought up in the family, and that was how we loved each other and did it, and we didn't harbor stuck feelings. I was like, man, it took me a while to come down after all the fighting sometimes.
Yeah, but you're running these massive businesses, and the drama and challenges and conflict happen every single day. So as a business leader, do you think cortisol not impacted, but with personal matters, it just shot through the roof?
I think
because I would expect you to just not be phazed. I feel like you'd be like, I've seen all this shit.
I just was like, oh, the pressure of the fighting and like, how long is this gonna go? And how it was negative. Whereas here's the difference: if I'm dealing with 70% of my business evaporating during COVID, like that is a situation that I am in for work, that I signed up for, that I knew probably was a risk, right? Yeah. Not that we all knew about COVID. And then here you are with people, and you're supposed to be friends, and this is supposed to be the place where you're supposedly like everything's good. So when it's not good, it's like fighting with a loved one. You're like,
sure.
I don't come down from that as easy as I do. Like business is hard. It's tough all the time. I guess you sort of expect it.
Okay.
So it's when it's unexpected that it's hard to come down from.
Okay. I know you've talked about this a little bit before, but what was the first conversation like for you to go on Real Housewives of New York?
Oh my gosh. I spoke to someone at casting and they were like, what do you do in situations of conflict? And like, do you stand up for people? Do you take sides? I can't remember all the questions, but it was a lot about how I managed through that type of thing. And then I was like, in my first interview, I was like, I'm not going to throw another woman under the bus. I am not going to talk about her behind her back.
Yeah.
I am not going to start shit just for whatever. I'm going to be myself. And if you don't want that, great.
Interesting.
And yeah.
Do you think they knew that's what you're putting on the table and they kind of set you up to be the person that's not going to be that, but then have to deal with it? Like, do you think, like, hindsight, do you think that's the character they saw?
No, I think that they thought that one of the producers said to me, like, you're Rebecca fucking Minkoff. Act like that. I was like, I am.
Yeah.
I don't need to be this demonic person to get my way and have a tantrum.
Okay.
And he said, would you teach your daughter to behave the way you're behaving? And I said, absolutely. So I think they thought, oh, the way to resolve things or get what I want or react to being poked is to stamp your foot and be like, you crazy bitch. What the fuck you talking about?
That's going to be a good clip, right?
I don't do that. You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I get that. All right. Would you ever do any other form of reality TV, or are you like one and done?
No, I certainly would. I have had an idea baking and it's out to a couple places right now. What I have to get over is...
Can you speak to the idea at all?
No, I don't want anyone to steal it.
Okay, that's true.
But there's a lot of hilarity and fun and misadventure. It's also supporting women. But I have to decide if I want to be gone and traveling for months at a time. And I don't know that I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, I get that. All right. You alluded to your business. You talked about COVID, the impact it had. You also have talked on other podcasts about the impact tariffs it had in your business pre-COVID.
Yep.
We're now in a very tariff
friendly,
maybe. I don't know. I literally was going to say friendly, but I'm like, I don't think that's the word.
Not the word.
We are in a tariff rich environment right now. How did tariffs impact you back in 2019-20? And how does that connect to how they're impacting your business today?
So the first set of tariffs were like the worst thing that could ever happen because you hear about it and it happens before you can do anything to change. So we were mostly producing in China. Okay. And we knew that was the year we were projecting, I think, a $3 million EBITDA. And it went reverse. It was a loss then of $3 million, roughly. Yeah. I went to...
That's a big swing.
It was a big swing.
And that was from tariffs?
Yeah, because everything was made in China. So it swung everything.
What percentage was it back then? Do you remember?
Was it 10%?
I think it was 10 or it might even been more than that. Okay.
So 10% to your margin that's a lot. I think I can't remember what each margin point for us was. I feel like each margin point was $1 million. So it was a 10 million swing that took it from down to us losing 3 million. And then you go into COVID. Oh. So we're already like, oh shit. Then you go into COVID, then 70% of our business evaporates overnight. Because we were in wholesale, those stores were closed, the POs were canceled, we had all the inventory. So talk about just the chain effect. I'd gone to testify in Washington about the harm these tariffs could do to brands. Listen, I appreciate the sentiment, but you got to give a company more time to do it.
Yeah. So when you say sentiment, you're saying what?
I'm saying if you want to have tariffs and you want to really push people to move back into the U.S. and do U.S. made things and stimulate the economy, I appreciate that.
Yes.
But you can't do it in 6 months.
Correct.
And if I still have to order all my hardware, all the filler, all the thread from overseas just to make it here, my handbag price doubles. And the customer can't pay that. So there's so many things, and I'm sure each company has its nuances.
And industry. That's another thing too. Like each industry is going to be impacted different from it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see most surveys of CEOs and Fortune 500s right now and economists are all saying like this is going to potentially cripple the economy. And we're seeing it happen and play out now. Interesting to see how you go from 3 million EBITDA projected to negative 3 million. That's a huge, huge swing. How do you think tariffs are going to impact you guys today?
So because of that, we did get out of China. So now we're in Indonesia and Vietnam primarily for our bags. So we're not being impacted today. A little bit on the ready to wear, but it's not a big enough number in our business. So we're safe. Yeah. But it still affects everything. People are still raising prices wherever they get things. Sure. Our hardware prices are now a little higher. Yeah. So it does affect you.
Okay. Decade plus into the business. this happens. You talked a little bit about it. What did revenue numbers look like before 2019?
Our height as a brand was 115 million.
115 million in gross revenue.
Yeah, 115.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That would have been 2016, 2017, maybe 2015.
When you look back at that revenue number, what do you think it was that drove that?
We were on a whole growth mindset. We had taken in private equity money in 2012 and 2013. And the sentiment back then was grow at all costs.
Go.
Don't worry about margin.
Yeah.
Who needs margin? Just keep growing.
How were margins at 100?
They were not great. They were not where they needed to be.
Okay.
We actually artificially took the company down to about 70 million in order to improve our margins.
Explain artificially.
Well, we said we're going to take 30 million off the table so that our margin improves, because we're going to take by store. We're going to say, is this profitable to be in this one store? Okay. No, gone. What about this one? No. Are you giving us the margins we need? No. Do we have margin agreements with stores? Because that's big in wholesale.
Sure.
You're going to sell out at a 58% margin. We said, we're not guaranteeing anything to you. And they go, okay, we're going to cut your orders. Great. We're losing money on the deal anyways if we take it.
Interesting.
So we took about 30 mil. 70 was like the magic number of stability, profitability, and then
what was the
gone.
Was the idea though to like lean the company to do what? Exit it? Or was it just
we wanted to tighten the ship. We wanted to get rid of all the rotting ends and just make it a profitable, slower growth, sustainably, healthy company.
Gotcha. Then you end up, so you have this, it's an interesting time that you sold in 2022, right? Because it was right at the end of 2022?
Yeah.
All right. But 2019, obviously tough year. COVID, terrible year. 2021, I'm assuming slight rebound. Why sell? It's like, buy high, sell low. Why sell when things weren't moving in the right direction?
So we were back to growth. We were very proud of ourselves that through COVID, women bought bags, which was like, where's she going? But thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. We were hit with such debilitating supply chain issues that we realized unless we partner with a strategic, we don't have the leverage we need.
Okay.
So we were getting 3,000 of 300,000 units end of 2021 with no way to control it. When you look at the lineup of who these factories.
That's insane.
Well,
1%?
They would let 200 workers in versus 1,000. So when you're sitting there and you're like, we have no pull, they're prioritizing the bigger fish, the other bigger handbag brands. So we said, we need someone with muscle. And we had been already speaking to this strategic that we sold to for about a year. Okay. So there was a comfort level. They knew the business. They knew our numbers. We had been dancing around. And then we just said, hey, we need your fucking help. Because this will put us out of business if we can't get goods.
Was this the closest you've ever been to being out of business, 2019 and 2020?
2020, there were some dark nights where my brother and I were like, it'd be actually easier to go out of business.
Damn.
And should we? And we said, no, this has been 17 years of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Not only would that be a disappointment and sad for us, but like to the team that we had left, we had about 22 people left.
Okay.
So we said, let's just go down. And if we're going to go down, like we're going to go down.
Go down swinging.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw, and I think it was Kristen Cavallari's podcast, you had said your first starting salary, you took out $23,000 when you started the company. You were killing it. Did you guys fully self-fund the business, or did you raise capital when you started it?
We did not raise capital. My brother funded the business on his Amex, and when he maxed that out.
That's wild. How much?
I think he had like a $250,000 credit line.
Okay.
He had a successful software company prior, so he had a nice credit line. Then he mortgaged his house.
No way.
Yep. So then he was like, I'm not comfortable with this.
So $250, then how much did you put in?
About 700, I think, is what he put in.
Okay, so you're in about $1 million. What is
he's in? I'm like, I have a bracelet. Not this bracelet. It was like
a been a good one.
Yeah. Then we were big enough by then to get a factoring company, a purchase order financing company that was advancing capital on the stores that pass credit checks.
So you're $1 million, or your brother's $1 million in.
About that.
And how long did it take for you guys to repay him?
Once we got the factoring company going, he was repaid.
Okay.
And I think if there was a little bit left when we got our first PE investment, he was repaid.
Gotcha. And then how did you decide to split equity? And what advice would you have for someone that's wanting to start a business, needs a family member or friend, and has to decide, like, how do you break it out in equity?
Yeah, so we didn't discuss it at all at first. It was kind of just like heads down, we're in this together. I think at the time
no contract, nothing.
No contract.
That's rare. Even with family members, that's rare.
It was rare. I didn't know what the hell I was doing on the business side. Yeah. Now I obviously do.
Sure.
So I was just like, oh, good, help. I was on the way. Great. And right before we took in equity, he's like, all right, there's some money that's about to hit. Now we got to land the plane.
Okay.
He was like, I imagined that we were 50-50 before, but I also loaned the business money. Sure. I also put up whatever, $1 million. Like that's worth something. And so this is how he'd like to structure it. So we came to an agreement that at the time seemed like the right arrangement. And we kind of stayed in that ratio ever since.
60-40?
35-65.
35-65. Okay, good stuff. So then when you sold your first private equity deal, how much ownership did you take off the table?
We sold 26% and they put in.
What did you sell it for?
I think our valuation was about $40 million at the time.
You did that in less than 10 years. That's wild.
Yeah, I think it was 40 or 50 was the
valuation. In an
valuation.
Industry that's so hard. Like
well, back then though, like accessories was where people were just dumping money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's changed. Although the luxury handbag, like I feel like that space has blown up lately.
Luxury is actually struggling.
It is.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is the handbag market in general?
No, our price point is seeing a resurgence, and then cheap stuff is having like its moment because right now, at least with Gen Z, trends are so quick that they just want the $20, $30 dupe. Pop.
Yeah.
And then I'm on to the next, and we're saying, no, our bags last 20 years.
Yeah.
Like invest a little bit more money and have it longer. And yes, we can be a part of a trend, but like we also have trendless items.
Okay, I'm going to get back to trends because it's a huge topic right now. Before I do though, 40 million valuation.
Yeah.
You guys sell a percentage to private equity, take it through the ringer. You've already been through the ringer. You talked to us about it. You then sell it in 2022. What was the valuation in 2022?
I can't tell you that.
Oh,
I can tell you what's been written.
Can you say what's been written?
It was sold for close to $20 million.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. And do you still have, I know you're the chief creative officer, right?
I am.
And your brother's on the advisory board now, so he's not working in an active position.
Correct.
But do you still have ownership in the company?
I have a whopping.
Let's hear it.
Figure?
Drum roll. Here we go. Give me another clip.
I have a whopping. No, I don't want this to be the clip.
Oh, okay.
I have 3.5%, and then every year I earn another 0.5% that I'm there for 5 years.
But you're paid a nice salary.
Yes.
And that salary is a little bit more than $23,000.
Just a little.
Just a little bit more. I love it. Do you feel incentive? Like, do you still feel the big question that we get from a lot of our listeners is like, when you do exit and it's your baby, you're giving up your baby. Not only are you giving up your baby, you're giving up your name. Your name is on the front door everywhere. Do you feel any bit of less incentivized only having 3.5% of what you once had 35%? And what advice would you have for someone dealing with that?
Yes, I have to give the advice on the split of the equity too, because I forgot to give advice for that.
Okay, I want to hear it.
So on the amount I have now, someone actually asked me, they're like, so are these owners, are they telling you to work this hard? Like, are they giving you this crazy, insane goals? And I said, I'm doing all this because I love it. Yeah. And this is my name. This is my legacy. Yes, the percentage is fine, but like I'm doing it because this is what I love to do and what I've spent 20 years building. So you could say the number's 2 or 1, I'd probably act the same. I think the advice that I would give if you're going to sell, you are getting more married to these partners than any partner you're going to shack up with. You better make sure that you fight for what works for you, for an employment agreement, for a salary, for like creative rights.
Yeah. And
I feel I have that with them. And they've respected that. And so I feel like, great, I'm along for this ride. And I want to see it do well, you know?
Yeah.
The advice that I would say for someone who's looking at an exit is get your ducks in a row, like a lot sooner. It's not when it's happening that you should be planning for this. Yeah. It's like, think about and visualize, what do you want? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? What's your role? What rights do you want to have? And really, really do the math and the diligence on that, because once it happens and it's not yours.
Yeah.
You know, my first day in the new offices, when it really wasn't mine, I had a panic attack. I left.
No way.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was like, wow, this really isn't mine.
Did you feel like you had to like report to someone? It was very corporate. Like, what was the feeling?
Well, it was a brand new office that they built fresh. And then, you know, all of a sudden I was like, oh, the ownership I had over like calling certain shots was now changing. And it was just an odd feeling. And I walked out the door and I walked all the way home over the Brooklyn Bridge just to like wrap my head around what is this new role and how do I now I have to go to someone and ask for permission on something. I'm not used to that. Or they might say, no, you can't do that. And what do I do with that? Do I just say, okay?
See, this is like, as you're painting this picture, this is the scene I want to see on Real Housewives. Like, I want to see you have a panic attack, freak out, walk out,
that was offered up,
go through that. Why didn't they take it? What the?
Maybe you can make a phone call.
What does your panic attack look like?
I took a long walk.
Long walk, but
in my head, I'm like,
yell thing. Is it a breakdown thing? Is it a cry thing? Like, how's Rebecca Minkoff?
It was like I was like a little shaky inside, like a little like
knots.
Yeah, and then in my head, like I have the old-fashioned Rolodex, and I'm just churning through. Is this the solution? Is this the solution? What about this? What about this? And my head is kind of going.
Yeah.
And in those moments, I'm not on my phone. I'm like looking out, and I'm just trying to get pull some stability from somewhere. And if I can find one thing, I can find another. And I just keep putting back what feels stable.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, obviously it worked out though. You exited it at the right times. The company is blown up. We're seeing a lot of change. We talked about it already with trends. So like e-commerce is changing dramatically. It feels like right now from a marketing standpoint, everyone on social is doing out of the box strategies to like get their product to go viral. I think we've seen it all at this point.
Yep.
Is there anything from a marketing standpoint, while TikTok is moving in the direction it is and trends can happen overnight, that was a huge success that worked for you guys?
We used to do these scavenger hunts.
Okay.
Back in the day where we would say, you know what, these hints will be at these locations.
Yeah.
And if you complete the scavenger hunt, you get a bag. And we would normally time it around, there used to be this event here called Fashion's Night Out where it was like a New York City party with all the stores participating. Okay. So the streets were already alive with fashion enthusiasts. So then to do that scavenger hunt during that time just created this like rabid, like women everywhere trying to find the hint in the bag and all to win. And that was really fun.
Scavenger hunt. Interesting. You might have to bring that back.
I know.
I feel like
maybe that should come back.
You might have to bring that back. Now, someone that also has a social media influence like yourself, on the opposite side, do you take brand deals? Do you ever work on an influencer perspective with brands?
Yes, I do. As long as it's not competitive to what the brand has and makes, then yes.
Okay.
So health products.
Yeah.
Magnum ice cream, for instance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I take them.
Are you so you're on both sides of the coin?
I'm on both sides.
You're writing checks, you're receiving checks.
Yep.
How do you handle the negotiation? And are you ever surprised at like what rate comes through the door based on the checks you write for other influencers?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Sometimes I think that the checks are bigger than you'd expect. And then sometimes they're really small. And you're like, you think I'm going to say yes to that? Mm-hmm. But you're usually, I think if someone's coming to me, it's not because I'm an influencer. I like to call people like founders, people of influence. So you're not.
Start telling myself that. I'm a person of influence.
You're a person of influence,
I'm not an influencer,
right?
Yeah.
So let's take a brand that I work with. I'm an investor and advisor in BioMe. It's a gut health supplement brand.
We were talking about this last night.
That's right.
I love BioMe.
Yeah.
The chocolate flavor's fire. Okay.
So I'm going to try the chocolate mixed with the vanilla now.
Try that. And throw peanut butter and then throw in a banana in there.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so that sounds really delicious.
Right there.
So that's one where I know I can talk about it. I know it's also true to what I'm doing. You're not going to see me suddenly do a Wendy's commercial. Like I'm only also doing deals that's like I'm into biohacking and health.
What if Wendy's came to you with like $1 million deal?
I would say, can we make an organic grass-fed burger, please? Then I would take that deal.
Okay, gotcha. But if they said no to the organic grass-fed burger, you wouldn't do it?
I would make them change something. Like, can we make the fries and beef tallow? Like, I would have to do something. I can't just take a check like that.
Okay.
And also, I think you lose credibility. People are like, wait a second. Here's your list of vitamins. Here's your workout program. Yeah. You're working out all the time, and now you're eating Wendy's? Oh, I know you just took the check.
The inconsistency of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wouldn't do that. But BioMe is something that you've invested in. Have you invested in any other companies that completely took off? Like, do you have a Grammy or an Oscar and a company you invested in that was like a huge win?
Man, I wish. No. Sadly, no.
Except your own.
Except my own. All my blood, sweat, and tears.
That is a big one to have. Something you taught. Now I kind of want to go into the consumer side. We just learned a lot about your businesses, the numbers, the success. But the people that don't have the desire to do what you did, but they want to learn from an expert in the field. If you are buying a bag, what are things that, if I talk to someone who owns a car dealer, they can tell me 15 things like, watch out for this, don't get the warranty, watch this when you do this. What are some of the things, like as a consumer, we might not know that you can give us like a little secret into when consuming for a bag?
Ooh, I love these. Okay, first and foremost, the metal. A lot of people will use an alloy to make the metal cheaper and lighter. So if you tap the metal, let's say the hardware on the bag, and it sounds chintzy, don't buy it. It will break and it will peel and crack and flake. So you want something of substance, but it's not too heavy.
Okay.
If it makes the right sound, you'll know. It's like crystal makes the right sound when you hit it. The hardware sounds like, oh, that's actually metal.
So tap the hardware.
Tap the hardware.
Okay, that's a good one.
If the bag looks painted, it will crack and peel.
How do you know if it looks painted?
Because you can't see any grain. It's just like a flat surface. Like imagine a cheap car. Okay. Right? Eventually it cracks and peels, the seats. Yeah. On the inside. Okay. So the paint. Look for stitching. You know, was it done haphazardly? Are there little threads hanging off? That's all going to come undone. Mm-hmm. And then I would also say, like, did the bag that was made get wear tested? Like, is the phone pocket in the right spot? Is this crossbody strap in the right spot? Like, when you put it on, is it tilting weirdly? You know, if it's a turn lock, does it actually truly lock, or is it a little loose? Like, those are all things that you can tell a bag that's made inexpensively. And then if the interior is made of a nylon, it should be thick, because if it's thin, it gets holes in it, and then all your stuff is like hidden, and you think you've lost your keys or your license, but really it's just behind the bag. Interesting. Those are really, really good ones. From a price point, they are. Like, I think people are going to be surprised by that. From a price point perspective, at what point do you think someone is buying a bag strictly for just the name and not the actual quality? Like, if you are spending over this amount, when is it just for name and not quality? If you are spending anything over $1,000, it is just for that plaque. It's just for that brand equity and value. And I know this because we used to make in some of the same factories as some of those brands that say they're made other places and they're not. And I've seen those bags being made, and they cost the same as mine to make, but they did have Italian leather. And let's say my leather was from Brazil or somewhere else. And I will say, at one point we were using the same leather vendor from a bag company that was charging 10 times more than me. And I was like, wow. Did that make you want to increase your prices though? It did, but my customer, we are luxury for my customer. Mm-hmm. So I would just be saying, bye, I don't care about you anymore. Yeah, so, it's like honing in on your customer is everything. Right? Yeah, and so we've made sure that as I've gotten older and made more than $23,000 a year, that we make a bag that's under $500. And then we've also said, okay, good, we want Gen Z to want the bag, so what's a $95 bag? Yeah. That's great. Good advice for people that are buying interesting 1,000 or more. You're just buying the name. Another question a lot of people had is, how many employees at this point do you think have worked for you? Like, if you had to guess over the years, total, either come or gone, give me a roundabout number. Under 1,000. Okay, so let's just call it 1,000. 1,000 people have worked for you, and they have to come to you and negotiate, either when they're coming to work for you initially or their annual review. It's annual review season right now. What are some of like the best in class things you've seen that have worked when people are trying to negotiate with you? And what are some of the worst in class things you've seen? Best in class is you come to me and you say, this is how within my area I've increased X by X amount. Okay. Because I'm here, I noticed a change in this, this, and this. Because I'm here cross-functionally, I improved this between our teams, which resulted in growth and productivity. What I don't want to hear is, oh, I know the company lost money, but like I did a good job this year. Well, I'm sorry, like the company didn't do well. So you know, unless you're figuring out how you are so incredible, we can't live without you, or you improved other areas because you are working in a team. Yeah. And you can see that all the ships rose. It's hard to give those raises just because one person did a good job if everyone else sank. Yeah, that's fair. Or, hey, so-and-so is offering me more money. I mean, good or bad, the way people are making more money these days is they're leaving and they're getting bigger zigzag, go here, go here. Right. And it sucks because I fall in love with people and I want them to stay with me forever. And I'm like, even if I gave you 10% to 15% raise every year, you're still going to get more than that by jumping. Yeah. And that's hard. And you see people work at places for less time, and then you're always almost starting over. TikTok has a rule that my understanding is, if you go out and get an offer somewhere else and you come back to them, say, hey, I got this offer, can you guys match it? They have to say, you can no longer work here. Like, it's a thing that you can't work there anymore if you go get it. They're like, if you went to get an offer, you now have to go. We're not going to match it. We're not going to discuss it. So they don't, as a result of that, go get offers, because they know if they do,
game's over. Did you have any like interesting rules as far as like that is connected, or did you do anything different from a management perspective to either retain, empower, or inspire some of the people that worked for you?
I'll tell the ones, I'm the opposite. I'll tell the ones I love, if you go get an offer, please bring it to me so that I can see if I can match it or exceed it.
Wow.
I would hate that would be the reason you got a raise, but if you're leaving because you know you can go get X, please come to me first and let me see what I can do.
Mm-hmm. This is just a random question. I'm going back to Real Housewives. Like your depth is so, but
I can't get away from it.
It connects to your business though. Like
Wait,
your acumen is so what?
No, I did a podcast and someone's like, you're not even on it anymore. Will you stop talking about it? I'm like, I'm not the one coming up with the questions, okay? I'm being asked. What do you want me to say? I won't talk about it anymore.
I mean, it's hot right now. It's hot and you're a hot topic.
Listen, I don't want to be blamed for it, okay?
You shouldn't be blamed for it.
It's your fault.
It's my fault.
Okay.
I'm taking ownership right here. I'm asking the questions. I mean this though. Your business acumen is so deep and your knowledge is insanely impressive. And then you're going into some of these situations where maybe
now you know why I didn't react.
My question is, how did you not react?
Because I was like,
because
this
like
is
you
so
can, like from a
stupid.
business perspective, you can run circles around most of your colleagues. I said it, you didn't say it. How do you not like flex that? Like how did you not step into that and be like, all right, you want to spar, you want to talk business and all your success, let's spar. Like how did you not do that?
I just felt like it was wasting my breath. Like if you can't understand why selling to Nordstrom Rack is part of a business strategy and you think that's a bad thing, go in there, honey. Tom Ford, Saint Laurent, you name it, they sell there. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have time to waste my breath on you. I'm trying to conserve my energy. And you clearly don't understand business. Or I think one line she said was like, well, I'm in PR, so I get it. I want to be like, how's that working out for you now, sis? Not so good.
But you didn't. Held your composure. You didn't.
I did.
Didn't really
there, I said
a little bit. I mean, there you go. We got something here. I love it. All right, talk to me about. I mean, we've talked a lot about this episode on it, but your new book, Fearless: The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. You're doing a lot with female empowerment, and I would say our listener base is about 60% women that listen to this. So, what are some of like the tips and hacks that they can expect to get from your book?
So, this book, the problem that it solves for anyone reading it is you don't read the book and then throw your hair back and say, I'm fearless. Now I can approach life with no fear. Yeah. No, you're going to be scared. But here are, again, the things you can hold on to for stability that will allow you to take that risk even though you're scared. And so for me, it's 22 just business principles that I've used now twice, having started my business and then almost losing it and rebuilding, that I was like, let's see if it works again. And they're simple things. We talked about partnership with my brother and how that worked. Well, you need to assess and come to the table with any partner, marital, spouse, lover, whatever, and business, and get on the same page. And you have to do that a lot. And when you don't, you veer off and you start doing other things, or really weighing every risk. What will happen? What's the worst case scenario if I do this? Yeah. And if it fails, I'm not a failure. What did I learn? And so I think it's just these easy to remember things that you can use in those moments where you're like, I'm scared shitless. What do I do? Oh, right. Rebecca said, what's the worst that can happen? And okay, good. Knowing that, like I said to myself with Housewives, what's the worst that could happen?
Use that rule. Why 22? What's the 22 number?
Originally it was 21. And then I went in and I added a whole chapter for the paperback about money.
Okay. Oh,
Women talk about sex. They talk about their babies.
Thank you. That's what we do. That's what we talk about here. No one talks about money.
Why aren't we talking about what I invested in and how I'm, saving for the future and making a nest egg? And like, why isn't the first thing out of my mouth when I see my best friend, like, oh God, what stock were you in that just plummeted?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's really about getting comfort with the language of money. I wasn't comfortable for a long time. Yeah. But we have to. If we're going to ever be on par with you men, we need to talk about it.
Why do you think it is that conversation's avoided? What's your theory?
I think that women somehow, somewhere were marketed to or unconsciously told that, it's shameful to talk about money or it's shameful to negotiate. I love negotiating. Now I just like to see the reaction I'm going to get when I negotiate. Like my colleague at Female Founder Collective, my co-founder, was like, tell them a number that makes you want to vomit when you're asking for something. And I was like, okay.
Do you do that?
I do.
And do you do it? You just do straight face. This is the number. Get there.
Yeah.
And what's usually the reaction? Do they vomit?
Sometimes. No. It's a number that I say that I want to vomit.
Oh, I thought it's the one that you think they're going to.
Then they'd all walk away.
Okay.
No. So like I was working on a podcast deal.
Yeah.
And it was for several episodes and it was an advertiser. And I was like, fuck it. I'm asking for this.
How much was it?
It was for $75,000 for, I think, 3 to 4 episodes as an integrated partner.
Sweet.
And I just went for it, and they're like, yeah, that sounds great. And I was like, oh, shit, I could have
gone
asked
deeper.
for more.
Oh,
and sometimes people say no, and they're like, all right, what is a number you can do that's close to that? But you have to get like that poker face. Like when my husband was like, I'm dating someone before, obviously we were married. And I was like, let me know what happens with that. And you just,
with money, and especially this topic, women speaking about it and continuing to grow in space, do you have a take on prenups or post-nups or anything like that?
So I remember we were about to get married, and I was like, babe, we need a prenup. And I had nothing and he had nothing.
Yeah.
But I knew I was going to be something, and I knew he could be something. And so somewhere there's a napkin that's like, what's mine is mine.
You're a big napkin contract girl. That's your second one. Those are 2 big contracts,
I know.
too.
What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours, is what it said.
Yeah.
Now how we structure things is there's a joint account for family, and then everything else we make on the side is just ours to do whatever we want. And I inserted a floozy clause into our will.
What's a floozy clause?
If I die, and he shacks up with some new hot young thing.
This is unbelievable. Is this on the napkin or is this the real contract?
No, this is actually legitimate.
Okay.
He shacks up with someone. Immediately, all my assets, everything goes into a trust for the kids. So that girl has no chance of getting anything that I made.
So if you pass, this is if you pass away.
Yeah.
You pass away.
Or we get divorced.
This is killing me. So if you pass away, which I will hopefully never, well, we're all going to die at some point, but he's still going. If he gets a wife, he's done. He's out.
No, he's not out. It's just everything goes to the kids, and he can manage it, but he can't go buy her stuff with that money. Like they're very,
Is this like amongst your friend group? Is this a clause?
No,
that's
just
hot?
my mom came up with it, and I was like, that is smart. And I was like, babe, we're putting in a floozy clause.
Gotcha. I've never heard of this, so I'm so intrigued. Hang on. So if something happens, you get divorced, and he doesn't end up with someone, he's just single.
Yeah.
Then what?
Then the assets, then when you get divorced, you divide your assets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they'd be divided.
That is unbelievable. That is such a power play to have a floozy clause.
I wanted to just insert it. Not that I don't trust my husband, but my mom was like, it's not that you don't trust your husband, but it's the spell another woman can cast on them after you're dead.
Wow.
I don't know. Call me crazy.
Your mom knows. Last one I got for you is when you guys started dating, obviously get married. You're starting to make some good money. Like, how did you manage expenses, and what advice do you have for anyone listening out there when they're starting to get a relationship, how to actually manage expenses based on maybe income differentiators?
It's a great question, and I'm happy you asked this. In the beginning, again, both of us had nothing, and I was like, he's going to be successful before I'm going to be successful. So I'm going to depend on him to take it a little easy and grow slowly. And then my career, the ability, he's a director and mostly of commercials. Mm-hmm. So he makes great money, but mine has been more steady, I would say, over the long term, because he'll get a great paying gig and then 2 weeks later, another one. And so how we set it up is whoever is making more, depending on that ratio, that one takes. So if I'm making a third more, then I'm putting in a third more into the family and joint account.
Love that.
And then again, the rest of the money is mine. So we have this central place that's for the family, for the kids. Whoever's making more at whatever, take it on a year by year basis. Yeah. You put in if you're making 100 and I'm making 200, great. I'm putting in double.
Unbelievable. You got to call that something too.
I know, because
the floozy amendment's a good one. No, we need a name for this.
The salary ratio deal.
Okay. I like teeter-totter.
Teeter-totter.
Teeter-totter. I think I might have done something like this in the book where based on the teeter-totter, I think if you make more than 15% of your partner, you use the teeter-totter. Yes. And then it's you'll put in the percentage based on how much you make in comparison.
I love that idea.
The teeter-totter. Here we go.
Because the amount of friends I have, they're like, I got to ask my husband if I can buy that. I'm like, you make your own money.
Yeah.
Spend it.
Yeah, right. And you can't have those solutions unless you talk about it. And that is one of your 22 principles. Where can everyone find your book?
You can get my book on Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. Buy the book and leave me a review, please.
Okay, where do you leave? You can leave a review on Amazon. Those sites, right? On Amazon. Okay, leave a review. Before I get your trading secret, do you enjoy this book process? Do you enjoy like writing it and then marketing it?
Writing it was way harder than I thought. Yeah. I remember when I would see other writers woe is me, I'm suffering. I was like, you're a loser.
Get over
this
it.
Is
You're writing
easy.
a book.
And then I went to write it. I was like, oh, this shit's hard. Birthing it is even harder.
I was going to say, birthing it is way harder than writing. Way harder. And writing it sucks.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But it's fun. And I rely greatly I have an incredible PR team. Shout out to Jamie and Ebony and Social, Taylor, the HarperCollins team. They've been incredible. So that makes it easier.
Amazing. All right. Well, we got to get a trading secret from you. We've gotten a lot from you so far, but you can't get this trading secret from a professor or a textbook or a TikTok tutorial, only from Rebecca Minkoff, given your experience. It could be financial, professional, or personal, whatever you can leave us with. One trading secret.
We are in an age of instant gratification everywhere. Your career is not going to be that ever. You need to adjust your time horizon and expectations for a long-term game. I don't know of a cheat code here. And make your decisions based on the long game. And make your business, Northern Starlight or whatever you want to call it, your North Star based on that. Not like, oh, I'm going to be a billionaire in a month, or oh, I'm going to be a multi-million-dollar company in 2 years. Like, just play the long game, because to build something that lasts and stands the test of time is hard and it takes a long time.
And I think you're an example of that, because you had the long game, you had the North Star. When things were going well, it worked out. But when things were, going really not well, you still powered through. And I don't think if you don't have that North Star, why else would you power through?
Correct.
You would just end it at that point. You've done well, you built the brand, it's done. You obviously saw something though. And I think it's so much easier said than done. I think a lot of people say that, they don't do it. A lot of people think they're going to make 3 million and then they lose 3 million and stop. And you just kept honestly, for some reason, the scene of Rocky's coming, where it's like, how many hits can you take and just keep moving forward? And you guys did. And then you exited 2022. And now you're the CCO with a company and you went on Real Housewives. So how about that?
Take that, Bryn.
That is a trading secret. All right, Rebecca, where can everyone find everything you have going on? We know where the book is. Where can they find all your stuff?
You can listen to my podcast, Super Women with Rebecca Minkoff. Sadly, I can never have you on. And you can follow me at Rebecca Minkoff, at Becky Minkoff, and buy some stuff, RebeccaMinkoff.com.
Buy some stuff. Those bags are selling. Thanks to Real Housewives. And if you ever do like an integrated podcast where you're going to negotiate now $150,000, not $75,000, it's not all women guests, I'd love to come on.
Oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I should start a new one.
Let's do it. Thank you for being on this episode of Trading Secrets, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me.